Welcome back, chums. You know the sort of thing, sorry, I should say that a lot nicer, shouldn't I? Welcome back, yes. Well, you know what it's like. You're out in the wilds, well, Kensington, and you've got to be careful. Squirrels abundant here at the moment, yeah. You know what I'm like with squirrels. Somebody said, oh, Neil, you can't be frightened of squirrels. Yes, you can, because if they think, you know, I've got a flask, right, in the bag. I've got sandwiches, a few biscuits. You don't want them getting in your bag, do you? Yeah, now think about it. Yes, you see, this is a nerve-wracking thing. So welcome back anyway. Always lovely to have your company. Welcome one and all, and welcome brand new subscribers. You know, it's a funny thing, isn't it, in the world of show business? They have that line, don't they, where they say there's no such thing of bad publicity. And I don't know about you. I think it really just does depend, you know. It depends on what sort of publicity you've got, particularly if you're in the theatre or cinema. I don't know about you, but sometimes when critics say it's the worst show ever, you think, well, you know, we could always make our own opinion on that. So I'm never quite sure. I often think make and form your own decisions. It's a bit like this ongoing saga with none other than Meghan Markle and the Kardashians, and of course Prince Harry. Some might suggest that this is becoming rather more fortuitous. Do you know what I'm saying? As ever, let me explain. By the way, thank you so much. Oh, we have it away. By the way, thank you so much for your lovely comments regarding By Royal Appointment. Yes, filmed in and around Leicester Square actually the other day on a bit of a really miserable night, and a lot of you commented, you know, where's the Christmas lights? They are the Christmas lights. Not one mention of Christmas. It's very, very bleak, you know, but this is of course the Mayor of London spending it all on his own, but not on, of course, the predominantly larger population that want to see Christmas celebrated. You know what I'm saying? It's a little bit like this ongoing battle, as you can imagine, with Meghan Markle and Kris Jenner. As stories sort of things come out over the few days, what I always find fascinating is, you know, I've been to these Hollywood parties. I mean, you know, I don't mean that big-headedly, but I have been to them. I remember going to one at the top of a massive hotel in Manhattan, and everybody was there. Now, I've got a bit of vertigo, as you can imagine, right? So I'm thinking, oh, I don't feel very comfortable here. And in this room were all the big players, you know, the Nicole Kidmans and all the big directors and the Rupert Murdochs and people like that. And you're thinking, wow, everybody's here that apparently matters. But actually for me, I wasn't that bothered, you know. I don't mean that, it's just, to me, they're just people who are being very fortunate and very lucky. And that's exactly how I would describe Meghan Markle. Now, as you know, she's been given wonderful opportunities. In my opinion, the best opportunity as a budding, failing actress, mid-30s, to land and reposition herself. You know, when you look at, say, something like the beautiful and elegant Grace Kelly, she chose to step back from the camera. But according to people that I, you know, knew that had met her, like Debbie Reynolds, Mickey and Tony Curtis and stuff like that, they all said that she really did itch to go back into the world of acting, but she just didn't think it was the right thing. Now Meghan, as we know, is popping up as a cameo in herself in this forthcoming movie because quite clearly that was her objective from the very off. Where this gets really interesting, the inside of it is the sort of machinations of it all. Simply because, as you know, the Kardashians literally are driven by publicity. You know, that is their goal. That's what they do. They want you to watch their reality show, comment on their things, get interactive on Instagram. They are masters at that, you know. Now, whether you like the Kardashians or not, they know how to sell things, if so, to a generation. And for a period in the peak reality thing, that was their big thing, you know, keeping up with the Kardashians. As I said on a previous video, the All Fairs thing, I don't think it's bad. I mean, it's bad in television terms, but it's not bad. It's no worse than Dallas, Dynasty, Falcon Crest. It's a soapy legal drama and, you know, could take off with the right sort of level of promotion, possibly a few sharper script, you know, edits and stuff like that. But I think where this gets really interesting is simply this, because you will now have seen a slow progressive change of heart. Now, there's two reasons behind this, because as you've seen with these particular pictures, they then got put up and taken down, right? But not before everybody had got those pictures. And as I pointed out the previous video, the leering picture of Prince Harry, who literally just looked bored rigid, wanted to go home, had enough, that sort of stuff. Well, that's going to be the memorable picture. A little bit like him pressing on the doorbell over in London looking for friends, So that to me is where you're really at. But behind the scenes, the Kardashians are having a rethink on exactly, well, not all of them, let me explain this, but having a rethink behind the scenes of how and where they should sort of draw the line with Meghan and Harry. The consensus is that a lot of people do like Prince Harry. They said he was very affable, very charming, very supportive of things like the TV show, very congratulatory about the party, etc. Meghan just was like literally beeline. This was what she wanted, this is what she wanted to do. But what you have to think about is the Kardashians are on something of a bit of a publicity decline, whether they like it or not. I remember covering Kim Kardashian coming over to London. She stayed at the Landmark Hotel. There were crowds outside. This is opposite the BBC at the time, and crowds outside, and there was a big interest in her. Nobody's really that interested now. They will play that, but really they're not. She's been interviewed by regional radio and local radio. That's when it's slipping down a bit. So this has been very, very useful for Kris Jenner and of course the Kardashian clan. They've been talked about in a way that, well, they haven't been talked about in a long while. And what's interesting also, you have to think of that, that as I told you, and I was the first to tell you, the community this, the chums this, there was no sign-in photo option thing. You don't get that when you're invited to a party of that caliber, particularly if somebody of Jeff Bezos' standing, right? You just don't, there's no, oh, we don't want our picture, then don't turn up. End off, right? But here's where it gets even more interesting for me, because do you remember when Meghan popped up on the Drew Barrymore show? And I thought very brilliantly Drew Barrymore took the wind out of Meghan's sails by going off to find the picture in my dressing room of me meeting Princess Diana. And you saw that sort of like, oh, not interested. But she had to carry on. Well, according to a guest who was at the Kardashian party, apparently Kim was very keen to get chatting to Harry about, the fact that she, if you remember, in 2023 had bought this particular pendant that his late mother had worn. And she was very nicely explaining that that's because she admired the woman and, she thought she was a terrific ambassador for all the wonderful charity works, the usual stuff. But I think Kim, genuinely, like most of us, had such a soft spot for Diana, and particularly her age bracket, the era would have meant a lot to her. Apparently Harry was very moved, etc. According to an excellent source who was there at that moment when this particular conversation was going on, well, nothing, right? I mean, just nothing from Meghan Markle. Now, it goes without saying, right, chums, and this is the thing where I find this, for me, totally fascinating, because clearly at that point, your husband's there, you're talking about his late mother, a woman who he clearly adores, still adores, and wants her memory to live on. You might have said, oh, Kim, I saw the pictures, I thought you looked wonderful in it, and thank you, it's nice to keep her memory alive. Zilch. Nothing. Not even, oh, I'd love to see it one day or whatever. And apparently this is what got fed back, because they realised, a little bit like Drew Barrymore, and I mentioned this on the previous video, afterwards you would have thought Meghan might have taken a little bit of time out, perhaps, wanted to get a one-to-one personal picture with the picture of Drew meeting Diana at that premiere for E.T. Nothing. Right? Simply, so whenever they talk about these things and they go, oh, it's all about family, and Meghan's whittering on about family on a, as ever, with Love Show, not bothered. The thing it goes back to, again, and this is what I was trying to explain earlier on, is that basically the Kardashians now realise that if you invite a car crash, if you like, to the party, you're going to get free publicity. And everybody now is very much aware that Kim Kardashian has a TV show called All's Fair. Plus, they've all talked about Kris Jenner's facelift and the products, everything that she's doing, the fact that she's moving house, there's been a resurgence in the website sales, you name it, they have been good for the business of the Kardashians. So don't write off the fact that, because there's this back and forth in Hollywood, we love you if you can drive business through. While they may not be wanting to sign up for business deals and do things like that, Kris Jenner is a very, very savvy businesswoman. And she knows that in order to keep the brand going, you've got to keep moving eyeballs towards it. And that's exactly what she's now planning to do next. So while many people may say she's angry, she's cut them off, she was initially, but now, of course, she's thinking, maybe this could work again. And more importantly, the hot talking point was Meghan, no interest, clearly, in the history of the family that she married into, particularly when you think it was the late and great and beautiful Princess Diana. It's a developing story. When I know more, you'll know more. Neil Sean in the very heart of London.